Okay, it's now 9:01 here in Helsinki, and we will start the morning session. Good morning to everybody. My name is Risto Sarmunen, and I will be hosting this Click Innovations regulation note. This is the first one we are going to have this year. And today our main issue is the Net Zero Industry Act. I hope you can all see my screen here in front of you, so I will be assisted by Nika Pentikäinen from Click Innovation. Before we go into the subject itself, so I will introduce very quickly the Padlet tool, what we are going to be using for asking you to join, getting ideas for future regulation notes and also the policy measure issues. And then with the Net Zero Industry Act itself, so we will have here as our keynote presentation speaker Maija Palmu from Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment of Finland. And after her presentation, we will have two commentary notes. First one by Tatu Hocksell from Helen Oy, and then the second one by Suvi Kurkijärvi from Neste Oy. And then after that, the floor is free, so I ask you then raise your hand when you have questions or discussion topics, and we will conduct the discussion until 10:30 Finnish time, so that is 9:30 Central European time. But okay, once again, very warmly welcomed, and we will go first through, and I remind us all that we need to follow the competition law guidelines, so please do not have any issues in the discussion regarding, for example, pricing, production costs, etc., etc. So no confidential information are allowed during this session. And I also remind you that we will record these presentations and the discussions, so we will make Nico and I notes, and we will deliver the note then afterwards. But do remember that this is recorded. And as said, so we will be going to use, so I launched today this Padlet tool. This is how it looks, and Nico will share the link, which is there on the upper part, the link to the tool in the chat. And this is how it looks like. These white boxes are our test boxes. So what you see today first is empty, and then you can add your comments. We have organized this so that on the left-hand side there is the regulation note part, and then on the right-hand side you can add policy measures. You can also comment those earlier written proposals and comments, and this is how we will go further on. There will be here after one, so long list will be hopefully, and we will see that is there need to divide this so that we have a separate Padlet for regulation notes and separate Padlet for policy measures, but this is how we start. So like I said, so Nico will share the link for you in the chat. Okay, and then we shall continue with the Net Zero Industry Act itself, and I will take first Maija's presentation here. Let me see. Should be now in presentation mode. Is it so that you can see now it?
It's not in presentation mode yet. Risto, if you could click the little square on the bottom right.
I did it already once.
Okay.
Oh, I will do it again.
Yes, it's full
Is it
screen
now?
now.
Okay.
Yes.
Then, Maija Palmu, please, your turn.
Okay, thank you, Risto, and good morning, everyone. I'm Maija Palmu from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, and I've been following this file here in the ministry during the last year. And I will say first a couple of words of the history of this file. The Commission proposed the Net Zero Industry Act in March 23, and after the negotiations, the agreement was found mid-February this year. And there were basically three main reasons behind this act. First of all, the Green Deal, and the need to boost the European manufacturing capacity and industrial base of net zero technologies in Europe, and also to improve the EU's energy resilience. Then the second one was a need for coherent regulation in the single market. So the Commission wanted to avoid uncoordinated actions of member states to ensure access to net zero technologies. And the third and probably the most important one was the global competition. This was basically EU's reaction, especially to the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States. A Net Zero Industry Act has quite ambitious goals. It aims to supply over 40% of EU's own demand for clean tech by 2030, boost the competitiveness of the EU industry, create quality jobs, and support the EU's efforts to become energy independent. And there are quite many articles and quite many different kind of measures how this will be done. Here are some of the most essential ones. Firstly, the permitting. This act aims to create a predictable and simplified regulatory environment for net zero projects, especially by shortening the permit time limits, and by making the regulation more simple. Then there are different kind of measures for boosting the demand for net zero technologies through public interventions. For example, there are sustainability and resilience contribution in public procurement processes, and articles on auctions to deploy renewable energy sources. There's also aim to create EU's market for CO2 storage services, and a target to create 50 million tons of annual carbon storage capacity. And in the text, there are also orders for oil and gas companies to help to fund this effort. Then there is a concept of net zero acceleration valleys, which is a specific area to accelerate net zero industrial activities and to test innovative net zero technologies. And innovations are also going to be supported through net zero regulation sandboxes. And enhancing skills for quality job creation is one task, and there is text, for example, on net zero industry academies that will be, or academies that will be established throughout the Europe during the coming years. And then, yes, there. And then in the core of this act has been the list of net zero technologies. That means the list defines which technologies will be considered as net zero. And the original proposal included actually two different kind of lists. One for net zero technologies and the other one for strategic net zero technologies. But in the final text, there is going to be only one single list. And this whole list will be taken into consideration when allowing projects to become strategic. And becoming strategic means that the project can be granted priority status, which means benefits, for example, for shorter timelines and other regulatory actions. And the revision of the list will be based on the technology needs stemming from the updates of the national energy and climate plans. And the Commission will consider the need for changing the list after each renewal or update of the plans. And during the negotiations, politically, the most sensitive part was a reference to nuclear in this list. From the big member states, France was really pro-nuclear, and Germany then definitely against. And Finland, as a nuclear country, we were like-minded with France, and we were quite happy that in the end there is a reference to nuclear in the text. But then, because Germany was so against of mentioning nuclear here, there are safeguards at the end of the list, which are saying that it's up to the member states to decide to what extent this, especially nuclear and all the technologies listed here, are part of the national energy mix. And then, if I can have the next slide. There has been some critics also towards this act. First of all, the money. The critics are saying that this is not even close to the Inflation Reduction Act, and also reaching the target will mostly be the job of member states. Also, the definition of net zero technologies is a bit limited here, since it only considers low, zero, or negative greenhouse gas emissions and fails to take into account other environmental impacts. So many critics are saying that these proposed measures are not enough when trying to reach these quite ambitious targets. And then in the end, here you can see the final list. I don't know if you can read it. It's quite small there. There are already altogether 19 different kind of technologies, and I won't go them all through here. But yeah, for you to have at least some kind of clue how the final list will look like. And we in the ministry, we were happy to have here, especially the nuclear technologies and also biotech, climate and energy solutions, and sustainable alternative fuel technologies. But yeah, it's this, as you can see, it was really detailed, and many member states had quite many wishes, and the list during the negotiations, the list changed quite many times. But this is now the final result. Now I think we cannot hear Risto if you're saying something.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, thank you very much, Maija. Yeah. Okay, we save the questions after the commentary notes, and first we will have, I hope, Tatu Hocksell from Helen. We cannot see you yet.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good morning also to you. So, Tatu, you will take your presentation from your own
Yes.
computer.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will do.
please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Just 1 second, perhaps I can meanwhile introduce myself. So
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
My name is Tatu Hocksell, and I'm working in the Helsinki municipal utility Helen, working in the hydrogen business development team, and among other things, one of my tasks is to follow all the regulation that is related to hydrogen production, or like hydrogen industry in general. Just a second now, I think it's now big.
Yeah, it's okay now. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yes, so I will comment from kind of the hydrogen point of view and from our point of view. First, some general observations about Maija's very good presentation, and then some our like specific comments to our company and industry. So briefly about Helen, I think many of you know it's a Helsinki city utility company active in electricity production, district heating, electricity retail, EV sales, and hydrogen and power to X. I'm representing the hydrogen and power to X. And our kind of plans are, so first we have a pilot project, Helsinki Hydrogen Hub, that is hopefully operating in 2026. There's no investment decision for that yet, but hopefully soon we'll have. We have from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Then we're active in the Uusimaa region Hydrogen Valley project. We're also the other presenter, Neste. They're active there as well, and Gas Grid Finland and Vantaan Energy. And there we are looking into larger scale hydrogen production. And what is also in our agenda is we're looking into CCUS in the bioenergy plants in Helsinki, and whether to make store the carbon or utilize the carbon further to e-fuels. But that is kind of it's later state development. So just to kind of give background, this is sort of touches up also upon our work quite closely, actually, this Net Zero Industry Act. In general, as Maija said, the aim is of course good to have like more support for EU production of key clean technologies, but maybe the kind of criticism is in a sense not entirely justified, because the aim is not even to match this Inflation Reduction Act. It's not a funding instrument. Maybe that's also the biggest challenge of this thing, that it doesn't really like tackle the main challenges, which is make polluting things more expensive or green things cheaper, and this is not really the solution to that. It's probably helpful in other ways, but not in that way. Some of the provisions are not so relevant for Finland. For example, this renewable power support system, or a requirement to take domestic content into account in these auctions, and we don't anymore have these auctions of renewable power. So I think this has been quite heavily debated, that what does it mean in practice, and if you have to take into account it partly, like how do you do that in practice? But this is not really a question for us. Then Helen, or hydrogen specific, I think we are kind of, in our view, is good that these EU manufacturers of key net zero technologies are supported, and we have anyway kind of a natural preference for EU-based manufacturing because of the kind of security of supply and quality and all these kind of things. So I think the kind of directionally this regulation is good, but then whether this helps kind of the EU manufacturers is another question. And then this kind of I think it's also good that there's no obligation to purchase from for example EU-based companies and so on, because that might create some other problems. For example, the companies could maybe abuse their position in this situation. Then this CO2 storage, that's maybe the other provision that's quite interesting to us. We are looking into either utilizing the CO2 or storing it. Then one can question whether this like obligation to oil and gas companies based on kind of past sins to invest in these storages is like how justified that is. But from our perspective, it's of course good that someone is investing in those, and it's hard to say if this 50 million tons is the right amount, but probably it is also directionally to the right direction. We have, for example, heard that in many of these CO2 storages, it's already quite full. There's a lot of kind of even competition to get into those storages. So therefore, it's good that there will be more of these. Yeah, perhaps this was all from my side. Thanks, Maija, for good presentation, and Risto and Click for allowing me to have a comment here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for good introduction from Helen's side. And then before opening the discussion itself, so Suvi Kurkijärvi from Neste, please.
Thank you. Let's see how this works if I share. Let's go here, share. And what if I go to slideshow? Can you see this kind of blue?
It's coming now. It's okay. Yeah. Please
okay. Thank you. So my name is Suvi Kurkijärvi. I come from Neste. I will tell a bit about who we are. My title is Business Development Manager on renewable hydrogen. So what I basically do at Neste is look at the hydrogen initiatives and hydrogen regulation mainly from our side. But now I will talk from a wider perspective because Neste is not only a hydrogen company, but a lot more. So did the slide change?
Yeah.
No. Yes, good. So Neste, who we are, if you're not familiar, we are a renewables company, basically producing renewable, sustainable fuels and feedstock for the polymer and chemical industry, basically refining waste and residue materials, and then as well looking into innovative new novel raw materials. And one could say that hydrogen is one of these new raw materials that we are looking into. We are the world's leading producer of sustainable aviation fuel and renewable diesel, as well as feedstock, renewable feedstock for the polymer and chemical industries, and also developing circular feedstocks, this kind of chemical recycling technologies for utilizing plastic waste. And we are committed to be carbon neutral by 2035. So sustainability is in the very core of our business. Now, if we then go to the Net Zero Industry Act, I think we are really pleased that this kind of act has come out, and now the trilogues have been finalized for this in the EU. Really, this is needed to accelerate the process for us to reach the climate targets by 2030. So very pleased about that. And also about this strengthening the EU domestic production, this 40% ambition, having domestic manufacturing. I think this is really good for securing our resilience and having self-sufficiency also in the technology field. And having the means that Maija you described, having easier or faster permitting and new funding instruments, loosening the rules for these strategic technologies, that's really essential for us to really speed up these technologies to come forth and really scale up into industry, and that we see them in the industry actually being implemented. Now, we followed this Net Zero Industry Act development during the years, and like you, Maija, said, first originally there was two lists. There was the strategic list, and then this just other net zero technologies. And the strategic list, I think it contained only 8 technologies at that point, and that was we see that it's now really positive that we have a wider list, one list and wider list, also tackling having really ticking the boxes from multiple technology sides. And I think from Neste we are always calling for this technology neutrality, that we should have a pool of technologies to tackle this climate targets. So this has been really positive from our perspective, and really looking at the value chain in broader respect. And this is something that we then also during the process of the Net Zero Industry Act, when it was in the trilogues and when the first proposal came out, having a very narrow list was not aligned with the other policies in EU. So Europe has set ambitious targets for aviation fuels, Refuel EU Aviation sets targets there, as well as there's also for the marine, Fuel EU Maritime, etc., RED III. And then seeing first this list having very narrow scope and not being aligned with the other policies in Europe was not in line. And this was something we also very much sort of called during the trilogue process and during the development of this Net Zero Industry Act, that these need to be aligned. And here we are really happy to see now that there are multiple technologies, and I think many of these it now sort of recognizes also the elements for the aviation, for the marine, also the wider value chain of hydrogen investments, not only electrolyzers, but also e-fuels, CO2, CCU, and this forth. So this has been a positive development. So maybe I would, all in all, just to summarize, we are very happy and we welcome this Net Zero Industry Act. And the two topics that were first in the beginning worrying us were the technology neutrality and then this alignment with the other EU policies. I think this has been quite sufficiently now tackled with the final draft. And let's see, I've understood that now during March, April, it would be having the final approval. So and then still there would come some criteria in mid-25 to help sort of what are the eligibility criteria. But I think now this is really positive development. And thank you for asking me to give my comment on this, and thank you Tatu and Maija both for your excellent presentations.
Yeah, thank you, Suvi, and once again thank you, Maija, Tatu, and Suvi. So now we have those prepared commentaries and speeches behind us, and now please, if you have any questions or comments from your side, so please raise your hand and I will give floor to you. We have totally 56 participants online, so probably there is discussion coming. While waiting, so I also was positively surprised that the technology list was so wide, and especially this, I think, so you mentioned that the whole value chain is now covered with also the storage, CO2 storage issues, and now it really, like I said, so tackles the whole value chain, which is very important, because otherwise we know that it will not fly if it would target it only to, for example, electrolyzers or very, very narrow technologies. But how it may actually goes now, so this is then approved later during the spring, but it will then go to the cover different state handling, and it will take anyway quite long before it really is actual, or I think this is the traditional way of getting this into real life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And first of all, I have to say that it was also a bit surprise for me that the list ended up to be so wide, because it happened only during the trilogues, and still the council's general approach had two different kind of lists, and it was really like during the last minutes of the negotiations when the list became one single list. And yeah, the text, the final text is going to be approved now during the spring, and then there will be language versions, and the process usually it takes quite long, but I guess the implementation phase will begin maybe end of this year or next spring, and we are of course now starting to prepare it here in the ministry.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, so I understood that this was really a long path, because we already had this date to present this with Maija a couple of times, and like you said, it was just mid this month, and this was very. But then we have at least here some. Let me see. I can see Pia Salokoski, please.
Yes, thank you, Risto, and thank you, Maija and Tatu and Suvi. Very good presentations and very interesting to hear also industry view. I have a question to Maija. You mentioned, I guess it was in your slide 3, that there will be so-called net zero industry valleys. So do you know a little bit more what does it mean? Is it similar kind of like hydrogen valleys nowadays, or are there some new ideas?
I have to admit that I'm not so into that concept yet. I have colleagues who actually know better how they will function in practice. But yeah, that's the the basic concept is to have specific areas where it's possible to test these technologies, and also to accelerate them, and to have them like in a valley, in the same area. And I'm sorry, I'm a bit wrong person to answer in detail to this.
Okay, then we have Kai Polak, please, your turn. Kai, you are muted. I can't hear you yet. Still, I can't hear you firsthand. Okay, if there is something, I will skip to Pulafred Nari. Please go ahead.
Yes, thanks for the great presentation. I just have a question that if I was a manufacturer and my product is in the final list, for example, a battery manufacturer, then what do I expect concretely from the Net Zero Industrial Act when it's implemented in Finland? Because as Maija said, Maija Palmu, there was not large sums of funding brought with this instrument. So besides the speed up permitting, what do I expect from this? Thanks.
Well, the permitting is probably the most essential one, because, as you said, funding is not part of this, and there was some funding parts in STEP. I don't know if it's familiar for you, but it was also proposed was last summer or last spring. But then in the end, it also became quite weak, and the funding part is not strong there either.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And then Tatu, yes, please.
Yeah, maybe to the last point. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I was looking at these lists, and in this temporary crisis framework, these exceptions, it's basically the same list as in the Net Zero Industry Act, like which technologies countries can give subsidies easier. Although this is just temporary, and I think it ends, is it end of 25? So it's soon coming to an end, but clearly there is like a wish to do this kind of give support to these specific industries. So maybe you're like if, for example, you're the battery manufacturer, you're in good position to benefit from both of these subsidies, so the permitting timeline and this temporary exception. But I understood these are not identical, these lists, but close to each other.
Yes, that's actually really good point, and it's quite it's a bit complicated because there are many things in other initiatives as well. Well, and the state aid aspect is of course one, but it's not. It's more like for the member states to, or it's allowed to give more state aid during this time period than it would be usually.
Yeah. Okay. All right then, Nina Berry, please, your turn.
Hello, this is Nina Berry from Wärtsilä, and we are not typically working in the industry side, but more on the energy side. But of course, we do see that because there are not really strong regulation elements in the energy sector covering, let's say, hydrogen utilization. And of course, we might, some argue that it's not one of the first areas where to use hydrogen. However, there are countries in EU that promote quite heavily that they will start using hydrogen in combustion or energy use. I'm sort of also looking into this aspect of we have seen now for one project that we have received fairly quick permitting, so that's a good sign in a way. However, we struggle with the economics because there are not market mechanisms that would push for these really green solutions into the market. So how do you see, has there been
Now, Nina, we can't hear you anymore, so the actual question we missed. Yeah, for some reason now there is no connection anymore to Nina. Okay. But if you can hear me, Nina, so please, if you try to connect again.
Yes, sorry, it just jumped out. So
yeah, so we didn't hear the actual question at all.
Okay, so it was about the sort of energy sector type of issues. Do you see them covered in, because on the value or the technology list they were in a way, especially these grid balancing actions. But do you see them covered through this, or is it some other regulation that is going to cover energy? Let's say, promotion of green, the promotion of green modes for. My question is getting worse and worse, I think. But do you get my sort of? My challenge is to see how energy fits into Industrial Act or not.
Yes, I see, but unfortunately I have to say that I also I have to consult my colleagues from the energy department, because there are quite many overlaps, and I'm not so familiar with the energy legislation. I'm not from that part of the ministry.
Okay. Thank you. I think there was there in chat? Yeah, Kai was asking a comment and he cannot unmute. So his question is, what is your view on regulation related to cross-border initiatives, for example, border hydrogen valleys? Also, how will regulatory sandboxes work for testing in the national innovation projects if the sandboxes are national? So this is in the chat. You can see it if you open the chat, but anyway.
Yes, good question. And actually, we wanted to have the innovation part here a bit stronger, also concerning the sandboxes. And at the end, during the negotiations, it wasn't actually discussed so much than, for example, nuclear or the list itself, or even the skills part. But yeah, really good question.
Okay. Thank you, Kai, for that. Then any further ones? There was one, but it disappeared. At least I cannot see now. So we have plenty of time for questions and comments if you only have some in your mind. But so meanwhile, I remind you that please, from this on, use the Padlet so that we can have your proposals on the regulation note topics for the following regulation notes, and then the aim is that also some sort of policy measures and policy measure proposals and notes will be conducted during the re-electrification project of CLIX, and also this is part also to Baltic Sea Hydrogen Valley project. So please, I can't see any other questions nor in the chat. So then we have extra time for each of us to work before the next meeting. So once again, I thank you very much, Maija, Tatu and Suvi. It was very nice having you online today for this very interesting and important topic. And by these words, so now we have still one. Pilja Dirk, did you have some comment? No. Okay, then. Thank you for the audience, and I wish you all a very good Thursday and then the also coming weekend. See you in the next regulation note. We will give information when it will be conducted and what is then the subject. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.